Electric vehicles or EVs have become a buzzword today. It is changing the way we think about transportation and sustainability. One company that is making a significant contribution to this movement is Blusmart. We caught up with Anirudh Arun, the co-founder and CEO of Blusmart Fleet, to discuss the evolving EV landscape in India and the challenges it faces. Join us in this exclusive interview powered by MG Motor India as we delve into the future of electric mobility and Blusmart's pivotal role in it.
There are still a lot of customers who have never taken their first EV trip. To them, I say take a Blusmart ride. 98% of people took their first EV ride with Blusmart.
What are the challenges in the industry right now?
But when you take a personal car today, you still need to think a little bit about, oh, should I charge it first and then take it, or should I not? Now, these driver partners would come to our hubs, they would pick up a car and then they would drive and then they would return it to our hub and then they would go home. So they can sleep peacefully at night.
So what's the most common question passengers ask about EVs?
Interesting. Now people don't think twice about, why did you buy this car? Kitni chalti hai? Kahan charge karte ho?
One thing you wish more people knew about EVs.
Or retail customers, if they're going to buy an EV, they know that the Blusmart charging stations are always available. And we currently have over 7,500 cars and we have over 5,000 charging stations.
Hello, I'm Nishtha and you're watching Jist News. And today we have with us Anirudh Arun, who's the co-founder and CEO of Blusmart Fleet. Welcome, Anirudh.
Hi, nice to be here.
Nice to meet you too. And as we all know, Blusmart Fleet is India's largest electric vehicle ride-hailing platform and charging infrastructure network. And we'll talk a lot about specifically how Blusmart is literally driving India's EV revolution and also the EV landscape. But my first question to you is that how's the journey been so far from where you started and how it's been like now?
So it's been a wonderful journey, right? I think in 2019, when we started with 70 electric vehicles, we had no idea, that it would become what it is today. We've scaled up 110 times since then, right? And it's been a wonderful journey, especially because we're building something that customers really love, right? We're building a 4.9 star rated service. We're, doing so many 5-star trips every day. These are safe, reliable, and environmentally friendly trips. Of course, there have been hiccups along the way. So, in fact, just after we launched, I think 1 or 2 months later, the Prime Minister announced a national lockdown.
Yeah.
And then all the cars went, were just stuck in the hubs and we could not do anything. And then we said that, hey, let's service the frontline workers, right? Let's service the nurses and doctors and, the folks who are actually doing essential service in the frontline because they were also unable to get out at that time. So at that time, we had these very safe, sanitized, partitioned cars where the driver partner would always wear a mask and you would have partitions and we would measure temperature at our hubs. So it's been that journey to today, right? I mean, it's been an incredible journey. We've scaled up to 3 cities now and looking forward to do a lot more and bring clean, reliable mobility to a lot of people around the globe.
Okay, I mean, you mentioned one of the hiccups. I would want to know more about the challenges. Like, if we look at the EV landscape now, the EV market now in India, it's growing rapidly. But when you started in 2019, EV was not a buzzword at that time. Yeah. So, what challenges you faced in your journey with respect to the EV market in India and the EV adoption, and how did you overcome them?
So I think all the classic problems, right? What people always talk about, the chicken and egg problem. Will the cars come first? Will the chargers come first, right? I think that was a major talking point back in the day. It's still a talking point that, there is not enough charging infrastructure and therefore there aren't enough cars, or is it the reverse? Is it because there are not enough cars that people are not building the charging stations? We decided to solve that by building a full stack mobility company. So we said that, hey, we're going to run the cars, we're also going to get the charging stations, we're going to make life very easy to the driver partners, and then the driver partners will be able to bring clean, reliable, safe mobility to the end customers, right? Like you and me, when we go out, we don't care about how the car charges or, where it charges and how, life goes on. For them, it's a very simple ride from point to point, right? So I think that was the chicken and egg story, and solving that using intelligent development of charging infra, as well as building a very, very strong technology stack that marries the requirements of EVs with the requirements of customers and driver partners and the charging infra. And also, deploying the fleet at the right places right? So we did a lot of experimentation. We were wondering whether to launch first from Gurgaon or from Mumbai or from Noida. Lot of A/B testing, lot of experimentation in the early days, right? And then I think today we've scaled up our network to 7,500 plus EVs. And those were all early hiccups. In fact, one more hiccup I can talk about, and I've talked about it a lot, is in the early days there were no believers. People were like, why are you running EVs? I mean, who's going to sit in these EVs? We don't even know if these EVs are going to run, or whether there'll be risks related to electrical short circuiting or fire. And there were so many rumors, right? And I think from there India has come a long way. I mean, today there's a lot more faith in EVs. You can see television ads on EVs. No, in those days nobody would have dreamt of putting in TV ads, right? And Blusmart was one of those early adopters and early believers in EV tech, and I think it's because of that we are what we are today. I mean, we've and the OEMs have done a good job in diffusing a lot of early anxieties. The ecosystem has come together, built a lot more charging network that will make life easier. The battery pack technologies have evolved. So a lot of those things that were early hiccups are slowly getting solved. We knew that they would get solved, but I think we faced all of those teething issues.
I was also reading somewhere that 98% of your customers experience EV ride for the first time with Blusmart. I think it was in one of the interviews.
Yeah.
So what's been the feedback of customers, barring the early assumptions that were there before, towards EV in India as per your experience so far?
So I think early customers were actually very curious as to what are these EVs. It's like almost a new species has entered the zoo, right? And you're wondering, what is this? How do I make sense of it? How does a car run without an engine? Right, one of those very interesting tidbits that we had inside the cars in the early days, and that was one of the early customer acquisition, methods that we had. We put a small, seat hanger on the back of the seat, which said that this car has no engine. Okay. Right, and people are like, oh, how does this car have no engine? But it genuinely doesn't, right? It doesn't have an engine. It just has a battery pack and a motor. And people were like, and then that started spreading, and people started talking about, I'm going in this engineless car, right? And that's just a very interesting way in which we played it, and we got our early customers. But I think we've always been focused on providing very safe, very reliable, very peace of mind travel, right? I think we talk about responsible mobility. By responsibility, we mean that we are responsible, there is financial responsibility, there is responsibility towards the customers and the driver partners, there is responsibility towards the people, and then there's responsibility towards the planet, right? So it's a triple bottom line kind of approach that we're looking at doing here, right? And I think that's been at the core of whatever we have done at Blusmart, and it will remain at the core of what we're looking to build as a beautiful brand here.
So talking more about the EV market in India, what are the opportunities now that you see the market is growing rapidly? There's so many EV cars out there on the roads now. So what do you think are the opportunities with respect to the EV market in India right now?
So, I mean, if you compare India with a lot of other countries where EV penetration has really taken off, right? We're still behind. In China, EVs have reached, a better cost than the equivalent internal combustion engine vehicles, right? So people actually buy EVs because they're actually cheaper than your petrol or diesel vehicles. And that parity is still a little far away in the country here, right? And similarly, I think if you look at countries like Vietnam, if you look at countries like Norway, there's a lot more progress from a policy perspective as well as from a EV ecosystem, manufacturing as well as adoption perspective that these guys have been able to do. I think there's a long way to go for India. The metro cities are starting to see the early inflection point where you're seeing more and more EVs on the road. A lot of my colleagues now in the team have bought their first car which is an EV. Earlier, this was unimaginable. If it was in 2021, 22, people would, it was generally the second or the third car which was the EV, right? People would already have a Merc or a BMW or an Audi, and then they would buy, probably another EV, as a backup car. And also it was a nice status kind of a piece for them, saying that, hey, they're experimenting with technology, that they are more future looking. It was also a signaling point that they are doing something for the environment and so on and so forth. But right now, people are seeing both the environmental impact. So there are core and environmental, folks who are focused on the environment who would choose this, sustainability junkies. And there are folks who would be looking at it from a unit economics perspective, which basically says that these EVs are actually running at a cheaper cost than your,
Long-term
and the long-term benefits. The running costs are lower.
Yeah.
Upfront costs might be higher, but the running costs are lower. So these are the, and I believe that when you're talking about how this is going to explode, I think there is an improvement in technology year after year. The battery packs are getting bigger. The kind of charging technologies are getting more sophisticated. The charging network is, penetrating deeper into our cities and into our highways, and it's becoming easier to access this charging infra. And the cost of power is also, is getting to improve as the utilizations of this charging infrastructure will improve. And all of this is going to create a win-win scenario as we move forward from now into 2026, 27, 28, right? So I think there's going to be India is going to be one of those potentially big success stories for electric vehicles, and I think the whole world is looking at us today.
So I would want to know that how the idea of having an EV fleet impacted your company's operational efficiency and also customer feedback and satisfaction.
So back in the day, I think we said that we wanted to create a full stack mobility company, which means that we said that we would not want the end driver partner to actually finance the vehicles, because ultimately these are people from the lower middle class, or maybe the class that is not very financially well off, and there are companies that are pushing them into getting very expensive financing, and this is a financing at like 18%, 20%. So we said that, and then there's also a misaligned incentive, because then what happens is the driver partner would choose to do whatever they want with the car, and then that would impact the end riders, the rider's customer experience, right? Because they can indulge in behavior that is not conducive to the rider, but then it's their car, they can do whatever they want, right? And they will switch between one platform to another, and so on and so forth. So we said we're going to come in with a full stack kind of platform, and that married very well with the EV hypothesis that we had. We said that the entire idea, I think, about EVs is that it's a technology curve that's improving, and it's a cost curve that is falling, right? So battery packs were at $150, $200 per kilowatt hour, and now these have come down to $130, $120, $100, now below 100, sub $100 per kilowatt hour, and this is going to go further down as cell technology improves, as the economies of scale start kicking in. And there's a lot of PLI focus that's happening in India also, that India is also trying to indigenize a lot of these things rather than importing a lot of this tech, right? So I think that's why we got into it with an EV stack, right? We said that right now it might be more expensive, but hey, look, this is going to become much more cost effective as time goes by, and we will be the first digitally native EV native platform that will really understand the requirements of these EVs and give customers that sort of an experience, right? So I think that's been the core focus, and that married with the full stack mobility, right? Where we're talking about driver partners now have the peace of mind, just like we give customers peace of mind that the car will come at 8 o'clock, right? And when you book a car, if you book at 8, it will come at 8.
Yeah.
If you book a trip to the airport, you don't need to worry about it. It will come. The driver partner will turn up, right? Similarly, we also give peace of mind to the driver partners. And how do we do that is that driver partners now don't have the financing, they don't have the burden of taking a loan from a large bank and then paying 18-20% interest and so on and so forth. They are professional drivers, right? Now, these driver partners would come to our hubs, they would pick up a car, and then they would drive, and then they would return it to our hub, and then they would go home. So they can sleep peacefully at night, right? So I think those are the core differentiators that we entered with, and I think I'm very happy to say that we are continuing to build on it. Our hypothesis has only become stronger, if anything, as the 4 to 5 years have gone by since we launched.
But talking about the EV industry, you've been in the industry since 2019. So how have you seen the EV landscape change in India?
No, I think earlier, as I said, people would think twice that, what is this kind of car and why? I mean, is it risky? Will it stop along the way?
Yeah.
Right? Will it give me the comfort of? Will it last me the whole day if I need it? If I needed to go, are there any safety risks of running this car and stuff? Right? But all of that those are no longer issues. I think I don't think people face that because these cars are all very rigorously tested, and I think those safety parts have really, the safety risks have gone away. charging infra has also become easier. And I think what Blusmart really helped to do, and what you also said earlier, is that 98% of people took their first EV ride with Blusmart. So for a lot of them, it was like very exciting that, what is this car? What is this new thing? And in the early days, we actually ran EVs with yellow number plates, yellow license plates. It was only later that the government brought the green license plate, right? And we've seen that transition also. I remember the first few plates where we removed the yellow plate and put the green plate, and everyone applauded for it and stuff, right? So it was very, very exciting in those early days of technology, right? And I think as early people who are pioneering this, these were like very, very important moments for us. And I think from those days to today, there's a massive change in attitude. Right now, you see so many green plate cars on the road, right? Whether it's Blusmart or maybe it could be, some other private vehicles and so on and so forth. Now people don't think twice about, why did you buy this car? Kitni chalti hai? Kahan charge karte ho? Now people are starting to take it for granted. Like for example, if someone is driving a petrol car, I don't go and ask them, "Arey, kahan fuel bharte ho?" मतलब fuel तो भरते हैं, मतलब they fill up fuel somewhere, right? But in EV charging, people earlier used to ask this a lot. Where do you charge, right? Now it's slowly reducing. You don't ask those kinds of questions, and soon it will become as easy as as simple as you take it for granted that these cars will run, these cars will get charged, and it will be very seamless and in the background, and it doesn't require dedicated focus that this car can only run 30 kilometers more. I need to spend 1 hour here. I mean, all of that will go. Is fading away, and these will continue to go as the charging network also improves and the battery technology also improves.
Still, what are the challenges in the industry right now?
I think the challenges in the industry are still some things to do with early upfront higher cost. So there is a higher cost of ownership when it comes to EVs. There is a little bit of a pullback on the government and the subsidies that you could get. So I think the FAME subsidies are another slight pain point and stumbling block there. I think there is a lot more that the government can also do to push this in terms of relaxing certain other tolls and certain other costs, regulatory compliance costs that you would have for these kinds of vehicles, right? So I think those are other things. And I think it's just that people are still from a retail perspective, I think a fleet perspective, a lot of this heavy lifting is done by Blusmart. And where we are not exposing the challenges, the anxieties and the risks to the customers, because we take into account how much charge your car should have for you to do your trip. You don't need to bother about, will the car that comes, will it have enough charge, right? But when you take a personal car today, you still need to think a little bit about, should I charge it first and then take it, or should I not, right? Similarly, when you go on a lot of outstation trips, there are certain, when I buy a personal car, I wanted to, most Indians would have one car at home, right? Most Indians who own a car, most Indians don't have a car, but most Indians who own a car have one car. And you expect that most of your use cases will be in the city, but maybe 1 out of 50 cases might be that I'm going out of the city, I might be doing something, right? But I don't want to use another service just for that 1 out of 50 use cases, right? I want to have the ability to use the same car if I go to Mussoorie, if I go to, on a Char Dham Yatra, or if I go to Amritsar. I mean, I want to use the same car, right? And if I want to go on a day trip from Bangalore to Nandi Hills and come back, I don't want to get I don't want to hire a car rental service just to do that trip, right? I want my car to do it. So I think manufacturers have also recognized this, and they're also trying to figure out what is the sweet spot where buyers will have more comfort in making these decisions much more easily. The range of the cars have increased, of course, since the early days, but I think that sweet spot and the price, the range and the price combination needs to really start clicking for this EV adoption to really start picking up, right? But I think it's about the right technology, the right price, the right promise to the end customer. I think those are the pieces that need to be solved for having massive customer retail side adoption.
You also mentioned about the charging infrastructure. That's also a growing concern amongst personal buyers specifically, but also from a retail perspective. You also work along with establishing the charging infrastructure. So how have you worked in overcoming that challenge?
So we started, as I said, as a full stack company, and what we said is we're going to set up a lot of this charging infrastructure and we are going to power our own early EVs, right? And then we started talking to other players who had certain charging infra with them. We started talking to other aggregators of charging infra, and then we started onboarding them as well onto our network so that our driver partners could access those chargers on their app, right? So all the driver partners are able to understand everything about their EV on their app, right? So we tell them a lot of things regarding, how far your car can run, when do you need to charge, how do you need to charge, a lot of interesting, cool things that we have built as a, EV native tech stack, right? And there we have now also started onboarding third-party charging networks. So it's not only the Blusmart charging network, it's also the third-party charging network that these driver partners can access. And similarly, on a similar vein, what we have also done is we have started exposing our charging infra to other people. So other drivers who might be driving on other fleets or other retail customers like you and me, if we own an EV, you can just drive up to a Blusmart charging hub. And we currently have 50 EV charging super hubs across the 2 cities in India. And we have over 5,000 charging stations. So that's a massive number of charging stations, and it's the highest probably in India. And we realized the importance of opening this up to the retail customer, because this diffuses a lot of tension in the minds of retail customers. If they're going to buy an EV, they know that the Blusmart charging stations are always available, and they can pre-book a Blusmart a charger on their app, and then they can head there, or they can just turn up at the hub, and then they can scan a QR code and start their charging, right? And it's a very seamless digital billing kind of experience where it's automatically deducted from your wallet, and then you can use the Blusmart Charge app to do it, right? So I think we are doing this in a way that it's useful for us, but it's also useful for the society, right? I think that's what is important, and yeah, looking forward and excited about the future of EV charging in India.
Yeah, what are Blusmart's plan for the future, and how do you envision the company? It's already driving the EV revolution, but how do you envision more on how much more Blusmart is going to aid to the EV infrastructure as it's moving forward?
Right. So we currently have over 7,500 cars, and we have over 5,000 charging stations in these cities. And I think we would be, well over 11,000 cars by the end of the financial year. And we'll be doubling down on on Delhi NCR as well as Bangalore in terms of fleet addition. There would be potentially opportunities in other regions as well, and we will, play that by the year, and we'll understand what are the opportunities, where are the key, pain points, and how do we address that better as Blusmart, the brand. And we will also, scale up our charging infra just like we scale up our fleet in across all these regions, right? And we very deeply understand our tech stack is just incredible, because it's able to absorb so much data regarding the state of charge of each of the batteries, the state of health of each of the batteries, whether the car needs to be fast charged or slow charged, which is your classic DC charging versus AC charging. When does it need to pick up a customer? When does it need to go to a charging station and charge? It also understands the driver partner's requirement, because the driver partner sometimes wants to stop. In Indian cities, it's very difficult when even if you want to go for a washroom break, or you want to grab some food to eat, or you want to drink some water. If you have back-to-back trips, it just becomes very difficult for them as well. So we really understand, it's trying to humanize the EV experience, right? It understands the needs of the driver partner, it understands the needs of the vehicles, and it also understands which are the chargers that are currently available, which are the chargers that are already blocked, and which are the chargers that may be free in the next 30 minutes, so that if this driver is going to take another 30 minutes to reach, it will be free by that time. That's how you're able to improve your asset utilization, which is how you're able to drive better revenue for your company. You're able to build a financially responsible organization that's growing fast, and you're also able to solve pain points for not only Blusmart driver partners but also external driver partners, because we are now able to get that kind of information from retail customers as well. I mean, they tell us how much charge they're able to get and they need, and then we're able to allocate the right kind of chargers for them, right? And from a Blusmart perspective, the tech stack gets even more interesting, because all of these are cloud connected cars, right? So that nobody even needs to tell the system how much charge is needed, right? The car is automatically transmitting that data to the cloud, and every car is transmitting thousands of data points every hour, which says what is its current location, what is the current speed, what is the charging requirement that it has, how many more kilometers it can run, right? And all of these are getting real-time churned, and we're able to give very, very simple insights to the driver partner, because if you show this kind of data flow to a driver partner, they'll get very, very confused. So you need to give them a very simple kind of output, and I think that's what we are able to do, and we are looking to really scale this up and make it a very simple simple experience, not just for Blusmart driver partners, but for drivers around, whether they're fleets, whether they're retail, folks like you and me. We can make a really truly disruptive EV charging ecosystem right here. And I think that's what we're driving towards, and we have been fairly successful in accomplishing over the 5 years.
Also, I would also want to understand, just a last question to the segment. How do you think retail customers like me and you, and also businesses, can come together in accelerating this whole EV adoption in India?
So I think retail customers, first of all, if they are in doubt of how, there are still a lot of customers who have never taken their first EV trip, right? To them, I say, take a Blusmart ride. If you take a Blusmart ride, you will understand how an EV performs, right? And then you speak to the driver partner. When you speak to the driver partner will tell you what are the challenges the cars have. The driver partner will tell you what are the advantages the cars have, right? And then you will be able to make a much more informed decision rather than sitting, on the edge and trying to wonder, is this the right thing? Is this not the right thing? You should have that conversation, and it's a very simple thing. All you have to do is download the Blusmart app, take a first trip, and then you will start understanding the world of EVs. So I think it's a very, very simple formula for better EV adoption in the country.
What do you personally enjoy the most about being a part of this EV movement?
I think it just feels great that not only are we creating these 5-star experiences for customers that are super safe and reliable, but we've also driven 550 million clean kilometers, and we've saved over 40 million kilograms of carbon dioxide. 40 million kilograms of carbon dioxide is just unbelievable, and we wouldn't have thought that we'd have got to this level, and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
And when the entire country comes together to do this, I think we are going to have, South Asia, India is going to have a lot of climate related issues. That's what all reports point towards, and we need to take quick action. And it's not like we can reduce our energy consumption going forward, because we're a country that's economically growing. We are going to become much more affluent, which means our per capita energy consumption is going to grow. In this time when it's going to grow, the only way to make sure that it's happening slightly more sustainably is that you switch to slightly more sustainable forms of fuel as your energy consumption improves. Otherwise, you may end up destroying everything that you love around you, just to become a more economically powerful nation, right? So I think that's personally a big win for me, that these EVs are allowing us to create this impact.
Well, I had a lot of fun, and I hope you also had a lot of fun and learned a lot about the EV space in India. And with that, we come to an end to this interview. If you like this video, please follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Are you tired of juggling multiple charging apps, confused by mixed messages about EVs, and worried about e-waste? Join the Drive EV Bharat event by MG Motor India on August 6th and discover solutions that will fast-track EV adoption in India. Let's make sustainable transportation a reality together. And that's the gist. See you in the next one.